Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another Bundesliga prediction show. Tuning in on a Thursday evening, looking ahead to match week 22 of the Bundesliga. And joining me, as per usual, is Mark over in Nuremberg. How are you this Thursday Eve?
Yeah, not bad at all. Not bad at all. Enjoyed obviously the German teams doing well as well in Europe this week, which was good to see. Obviously, Borussia Dortmund getting a really impressive win on Niko Kovac against Sporting Lisbon, and then Bayern Munich also finding a great result at Celtic Park yesterday as well. So yeah, good week for the German clubs, and we speak, I believe, kicked off against Copenhagen. So.
Yeah, sorry, just a bit of internet slowness on one of our ends there. Good midweek so far for the German teams. Like you say, Dortmund were very impressive, very clinical, scored some good goals, and Bayern did enough in Glasgow to get the win. They'll be confident going back to the Allianz 2-1 up to do a job and maybe have three German representatives in the last 16. That wouldn't be too shabby. And they're, like you say, Heidenheim cracking on as we speak. Before we get started, as per, if you can make sure you give a like on this video. Obviously, if you've got any thoughts and feelings about the games obviously coming up, do let us know as we go through them. And make sure you subscribe as well. Big shout out to our partners in crime as well, Bundesliga Boxes and bullynews.com. Haven't done a social post about it yet, but the fantasy show should indeed be returning tomorrow morning as per usual. Runa's feeling much better, which is excellent news. So we all get to have our favourite show back, our favourite fantasy show. Looking forward to that tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. UK time. Right then, Mark, kick us off with Friday night football in your part of the world.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously it's a Valentine's Day special as well between Augsburg and Leipzig. Yeah, so for any lonely hearts out there, and they can enjoy this entertaining looking fixture between, as you say, the Bavarians and the Saxon. So, yeah, let's have a look at this one. So, Augsburg have really kind of turned the season around, haven't they, really? 10 points from 4 games. 11 points from 5 it is. But it's over 2 points a game average over a 5-match period. So they deserve a lot of credit for that. Defensively, I thought they were really good again last week against Mainz. Not many teams go to Mainz and keep a clean sheet, do they? So that was really impressive. And I think, I mentioned before that the return of Finn Darman into the team continues to pay dividends, really, for the Bavarian Schwabians. As for Leipzig, it was a relatively routine 2 win, but you do feel as though they're still a little bit underwhelming at times, RB, especially away from home. Last time they travelled, they played out that dire 0-0 against Union Berlin. So they will fear this trip, to be honest. So all that considered, and the fact that there aren't any major kind of missing players for Augsburg ahead of this game, I do believe that it will end up a draw, this one. So I think Augsburg could potentially continue this unbeaten run in the league to 6 games, but I wouldn't imagine that they'll quite have enough that ambition to win the game, but I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. Rory?
I can go with that sound reasoning, really, in terms of how well the FCA have turned around their fortunes, looked a lot more solid, and Leipzig was still not really sure what we're getting. Obviously, we had a good talk about them on the Monday pod, thanks to Justin's question in regards to Marco Rosa. So I think it'll be another tough challenge for them, and I'd lock in a 1-1 draw myself. Moving on to Saturday afternoon, then we've got a good game in store in Stuttgart as they host Wolfsburg. Two teams very much vying for European football. Both with high ambitions. You get Wolfsburg, obviously become, well, not draw specialists, but they've been drawing a few more games, and therefore maybe their progress up the table has halted, because we know how tight it is in and around that top half, don't we? So, we can see on screen that they're just about in the top half. Will present a good challenge, especially for a Stuttgart defence that is not settled yet. They played a good game, didn't they, against BVB in the 2-1 win. Chef Chabot really coming to the fore and being a leader in that sense, but we're still not quite sure maybe what Sebastian Hoeneß will try and implement for this home game, whether it's a mirror of what he did in Dortmund, kind of going with that 3-3-2-2 formation, or maybe saying a bit more traditional. We will just have to see on player availability, because I think there are a few question marks out there, especially around defenders. So I'm always terrible at tipping Stuttgart, but I'll say a 2-1 home win. I almost said 2-2, but I'll back the boys.
Yeah, this was definitely one of the tougher games to tip this week because, as you mentioned, Rory, I mean, definitely Stuttgart looked close to the best again last week, particularly defensively. I thought they were really, really impressive. But Wolfsburg continued to impress, really, and I still felt as though they played pretty well last week in the game against Leverkusen. Not many teams managed to keep the Bayern 04 out. And I feel as though they did play well. And I think Muller as well, another Muller as goalkeeper, had a really good match as well in replacement of the injured Grabara too in that one. So normally I do have a few concerns when those second keepers come in the Bundesliga because there are a few pretty suspect ones, let's be honest. But
yeah.
But to keep a clean sheet, what I believe was his full league debut. I mean, that was pretty impressive. So actually, Rory, I'm going to disappoint you in this one. I'm going to go for a shock here. Actually, I believe that Wolfsburg is still playing well, and they're going to shock the VfB here actually and get a 2-1 win. I feel as though Amura, who has been linked with Liverpool, I believe, as a potential replacement for Mo Salah, is going to really kind of be on his game in this one with potential Premier League scouts watching. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for the Wolves here. Sorry, Rory. Don't want to ruin your Valentine's Day or anything.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So moving on, another game, Union Gladbach. I mean, this is an interesting one. Definitely two teams in pretty good form at the minute as well. I mean, a few weeks ago, you'd have said an away banker on this one, but given the way that Union have played the last 2 weeks, it's been significantly better. 2 clean sheets in a row. That defense, Juranovic has continued to be impressive. Dookie and Leiter have been solid once again, like 2 seasons ago. As for Gladbach, I mean, Kleindienst is just the evergreen, isn't he? I mean, he's just the gift that keeps giving, really. And, he only needs one chance and he's going to bury it. So it's hard to predict that Gladbach won't score. But I still have a feeling that these two teams will cancel each other out in this one. And I think the improvement for Union will continue and they'll get a 1-1 draw here. Rory?
Yeah, it feels like one of those weekends where we could have quite a lot of draws, actually. I'd agree with that. Again, lining up a 1-1 looks about fair. Can't see Union rolling another 4 goals in like they did the other weekend. Things might kind of plateau somewhat. But yeah, Gladbach are a much more steady team this season and have their own ambitions. Be a big nod to them to be able to go, to Berlin and take 3 points. Could see it happening, but I'll stay on the fence and say 1-1 with you. So yeah, on to a local derby. On Saturday we've got Bochum taking on Borussia Dortmund. Obviously, who we've just been referring to, had very profitable evening in Lisbon. 3-0 win. They'll be thrilled with that. Kovac will be thrilled with that. But now it's back to back to Groundhog Day, really, isn't it? And you see all the the memes and things like that of like Dortmund, like Dortmund are like this muscle bodybuilder when it comes to Champions League football, and then when they're in league form, there's like this really skinny guy, and it is the case. They have to get their bread and butter sorted and better. Bochum are where they deserve to be, but this game has a bit of has a good bit of history. Last few occasions that Dortmund have gone to the Ruhrstadion, they've drawn 1-1 both times, I believe. And those games have been tight. I think there's been three 1-1 draws in the last four visits. At either side of that, there was a 2-1 victory for Dortmund. So it's a tricky place for them to go. I think there was a 1-1 draw in the season where Dortmund capitulated. Well, say capitulated, where they lost the title. I think that was one of the games that they slipped up. So yeah, it'll be a test. I really, really am thinking this could be a close game, just based on the quality of players that they have in attack. I think Dortmund do go over the line, but I can see it being quite tetchy for the first 60 minutes, but then Dortmund go on to win 3-1 for me.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, if you asked me on this one a week ago, I would have gone for a 1-1 draw, actually. But I think the fact that they were so impressive against Sporting, I mean, there's got to be some kind of consistency there. So, Bochum are still a pretty struggling side, ultimately. They have improved, but let's not forget they are going into this game rock bottom of the table. So, with only, 2-3 wins all season. So, basically, Dortmund should win the game. And I think based on the fact that, they had so many big performances midweek, the likes of Guirassy was, by the way, I think that's 10 in 9 games in the Champions League he's managed now. So he's another one that's really, really killing it in the Champions League. But in the league, I think he's only on 8 or 9, which might be a little bit paltry compared to what he hit last season when he hit, 28 league goals for Stuttgart. So, yeah. I'm on the same lines as you, Rory, that Dortmund have surely got to start showing a bit of consistency, and I think they will get a 2-0 away win for me. So, yeah, let's move on. So, Pauli Freiburg, that's an interesting one too. It's another game that you could easily go down the middle and go for a draw, this one, really. But I still feel as though Pauli at home are not producing the best stuff at times. And, I did tip them to win the last home game against Augsburg, and they ended up drawing that 1-1 all. So, yeah, Freiburg is probably a similar standard opposition at the moment to Augsburg. But the difference with Freiburg is that they do have that uncanny nick of nicking wins, And I think if you look at the win tally, they've got 10 wins so far this season, which is really, really impressive, and only 3 draws. So, the odds are kind of against a draw in this game. So, as a result, I am going to go for the away side to nick this one. Actually, I'm going to go for a 2-1 Freiburg win. Rory?
Yeah, I agree. I agree fully on that. I like St. Pauli as a team and performances that they put in, even this year, especially. And there'll be a great atmosphere, as there always is at the Millantor. But like you say, Freiburg have that uncanny ability to pick up wins. I think one thing we say about Freiburg is that they often beat the teams, that they should, but they often really struggle in the games where they're playing a Bayern or a Leverkusen or, those teams that you think, oh, this will be a good game, because Freiburg aren't a bad side. But often, they struggle in those games. So, yeah, I'd line up 2-1 as well. I can see it being quite tight, but yeah, moment of difference via, Grifo or Ritsu Doan, or even your man, Mark Bester, obviously got a bit of his run out against his old boys as well. His first appearance for the SCF, and he can make the difference as well. Right, on to Saturday's Topspiel. It really is a Topspiel, as Leverkusen, the champions, the Bundesliga champions, take on the record champions, FC Bayern München. Yeah, this is a great game for us to watch and get stuck into. Obviously, the narrative around it is very clear that anything but a Leverkusen win really poo-poos our title race. So many neutrals will be Leverkusen fans. One would suspect. So I can see this one being a good game. We know Leverkusen's recent head-to-head record with Bayern is good. They will feel good about that. They'll take a lot of confidence from that. I think one thing that the best way that Leverkusen upsets Bayern is pretty much what we saw last evening. What Celtic did, they turned up the temperature, they turned up the tempo, and Bayern really struggled. Especially at that phase in the match when some bodies were tired. So Leverkusen might have to time it, stay in the match as long as possible, and then when they see their opportunity, go full throttle and go for the kill. So probably going a little bit with my heart and a little bit with my head, I would say a 2-1 home victory for Leverkusen. Might be being a little bit ambitious on the Bayern only scoring one goal, but Mark, you can tell me otherwise.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this one the whole day because it really is tough to tip. I mean, on the Leverkusen side, they've got the head-to-head in recent times has been extremely good. I mean, they managed to beat them in the cup as well in the Allianz, and obviously the previous in the Hinrunde, this was a 1-1 draw, wasn't it? But I feel as though, they probably are due a win, Bayern. And for me, this season, Bayern has just been about them. There's always been something in the game, like a moment of quality, or maybe, the opposition missing a chance or something, which has just got Bayern out time after time. I still feel as though Leverkusen's style of play is far superior. You know exactly what they're going to do. And the way they dictate games, for me, is far better than what Bayern have done under Vincent Kompany. But I think Bayern have got that individual brilliance, and they've got so many options with a fully fit squad at the minute. I mean, obviously this weekend, midweek, it was Olise who banged one in from 30 yards. And this has been the way it's been all season. It's just always been something. Harry Kane is, still scoring pretty much every match this season.
Mm-hmm.
But having said that, I think, I am also going to go with a Leverkusen win just because it's more from hope, to be honest, this one. Because from the title race perspective, we do need a Leverkusen win.
We need
it. As simple as that. And I think with the head-to-head and with the fact that Bayern have had a hard-fought game in Glasgow just a couple of days before, I think they'll get a 3-2 home win. So, it should be a great match regardless. Two fantastic teams, and looking forward to it on Saturday evening. So, let's move on to Sunday. So, an interesting game between Werder Bremen and Hoffenheim. So, Bremen, I mean, they've just not hit the heights, have they? I mean, you could divide this season into two parts for me from them. The brilliance of 2024. Yep. And then the rubbish of 2025, basically. Let's be honest, only one win in 6 games this year, and it's just not been as good. Going forward, they've not been scoring as many goals. The likes of Njinma, Dux, and Gruel just haven't quite kicked into the form that we saw in 2024. Mm-hmm. And I think also defensively, the red cards, they've had quite a few, I think 3 red cards already this year, and it's just not been the same level. And all of a sudden you look at them, they're in the bottom half, I believe now, or almost in the bottom half. So this is a game they'll target and they really need a win. But so do the away side. That's the thing, because, I mean, after that horror show that they served up last week, I mean, things are looking desperate in truth for Hoffenheim. But having said all that, this is going to be my second big shock of the week, along with the Wolfsburg. I just feel as though Hoffenheim have shown me more this year overall, despite last week's rubbish. And I feel as though Plojek, Mr. Inconsistent, is going to turn his form back on, along with Kramaric, and they're going to get a 2-1 a famous 2-1 away win over Werder Bremen. What do you think, Rory?
So I was looking a little bit at, the head-to-heads, which is always fun seeing like what team has a good or bad record where. And Hoffenheim, the last time that Bremen won against Hoffenheim in Bremen was 2017. So Hoffenheim, we talked about how they often travel quite well. Similarly for Bremen, to be honest, but that's a record, that will surely be drilled into the players' heads for the TSG, and I could really go with it. Yeah, I'm severely blinded and put off by that. Yeah, 4-0 loss to Union Berlin. So I absolutely feel that Bremen have got the ability to score goals against them and possibly fill their boots. So I'm talking myself further away from a Hoffenheim win and more a draw, but quite possibly a high-scoring draw. So I would lock in a 2-2 draw myself. But yeah, it looks like one that could be quite open, I reckon, and maybe one that teams get a bit of a confidence boost from, depending on the way it falls. On to the second game on Sunday. It will be between Frankfurt, third place Frankfurt, and Holstein Kiel. A home game for Frankfurt that they will feel that they really need to win to get the confidence back after 3 straight draws themselves. Have just not quite hit the heights, and again, why we kind of talked on the pod on Monday. I think you were talking about it, Mark, when we were fielding some questions. Yeah, just the impact of losing Marmoush is always going to be tricky and hard. Ekatike has stood up and scored goals very quickly in his absence, as he already was doing. But this could be a real perfect game to really get the likes of Wahi and Batshuayi scoring as well. So this probably is going to be quite high scoring. Love the way the Kiel are approaching their games. Obviously, they will feel incredibly hard done by in regards to, again, what we were talking about on Monday, the 2-2 draw against Bochum last weekend, and how they'll feel that they should have won that one. And obviously, that Kiel need results. I can see it kind of being a similar game situation to what, the Kiel Bayern game was, for example. So I feel Frankfurt will go 3-0 up, something like that, and then Kiel might push forward a little bit towards the end and get a goal, but I don't see them replicating it, unfortunately, to a high enough level. So I will say a 3-1 home win for the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's definitely a game that Frankfurt will be looking as a banker really here, because they've drawn, I think, 3 out of the 4 games since Marmoush left, but they've not lost, basically. So, I mean, and some of those games have been relatively tough as well. They played Dortmund, Wolfsburg, and Gladbach. So it's definitely not a poor run, in truth. And I actually felt as though they were the better side last week against Gladbach. And, with a bit more luck, they could easily have won that game and got a really good away win. But yeah, Kiel, for me, they're always a threat going forward, and they are clinical. That's the thing. I mean, there's so many players on that team that have scored a decent, 4, 5, 6 goals this season. And I feel as though they will score again in this game. And to be honest, I can't remember the last time they didn't score 2 goals. So I am going to go for them to get... I think the only time this year they've not scored 2 was in that defeat against Hoffenheim when they only scored 1. But I am going to go for them to get 2 goals in this game. But unfortunately, as has been the story for most of the season, it won't be enough for them to get any points, because Frankfurt are going to score 4 for me. So I'm going to go for a 4-2 Frankfurt win. This is going to be a goal fest this season, I think, this week, along with Leverkusen Bayern for me. So let's move on to the kind of the final game of this weekend between Heidenheim and Mainz. probably not one that's going to really get the heart beating, considering that Mainz have definitely fallen off a little bit in recent weeks, unfortunately. I mean, you have got to point to the fact that Johnny B really has been missing, and the goal threat, it's not completely gone, but they're just not taking the chances. That's the problem. And they had chances against Bremen and against Augsburg, but weren't able to find the back of the net in either of those games. So Viper has done okay up top, but he's not quite Johnny B, is he? That's the problem. But for Heidenheim, I mean, it's just that same old story, really, isn't it? It doesn't matter what they do this season; things just aren't clicking for them at all. And at times, they just scream of being a Zweite Liga team. To be honest, this year, I mean, I watch Zweite Liga most weeks, you know, and I know what teams look like at that level, and it's just the huff and the puff, but they just can't blow the door down against better defenses, you know. And it's like, you know, if you had that strike force in the second league, you'd probably score quite a few goals. But at Bundesliga level defenses, it's tough. And unfortunately, I think Mainz have been really impressive away from home in games that they should win. Like they won easy at Kiel, they won easy at Bochum. So it's hard to see them not winning here, especially considering that Heidenheim had a very short turnaround between the game that's taking place now against Copenhagen. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 away win here for Mainz 05. Rory?
Yeah, tricky. Yeah, you know, like Left-Footed has said in the comments, can see some upsets this weekend. This one is interesting me as well. I know how wretched Heidenheim's form and year has been. Yeah, you know, they're literally playing now as we speak. They're drawing 0-0. I just checked. So they're going okay, touch wood. Maybe if they weren't playing tonight and the quick turnaround, I would maybe fancy them because Mainz have dropped off. And just something in the air is making me feel that there might be something there for them. I could see them getting a draw, but a really scrappy one where Mainz would have to not play well. And like you say, I think Burkhardt's back now. I lose track of his injuries because he is so often injured, but some of them haven't been as serious. So I think he was back the other week, but either way around, you know, the form of, say, Amiri and Paul Nabel and others has also slightly dropped off, and that's obviously why they're suffering. So I shall go for a 2-1 away win, but yeah, I'm not confident about that, but it would be much needed for Mainz for sure. So that brings us to a close. If we want to quickly have a look at what the table might look like, should we be right in our predictions? If you can do the honours, Mark, and just drag us across slowly, we would be seeing a slightly closer title race now. If Leverkusen obviously are to win, it would cut the lead to 5 points and have Frankfurt, Stuttgart and Leipzig all right in the mixer, including Freiburg, for top 4 footy. And then the bottom of the table, pretty much looking as is, really, quite sadly, for our bottom 3. And the race, well, we're going to have to really start giving it some hype, aren't we, Mark? The race for 16th is on, because I think that's all we're getting now, relegation-wise, unless Hoffenheim just can't get themselves going. It's going to be those 3, isn't it? But yeah, no, great stuff. Another week to look forward to. As I said, we'll be looking at fantasy football tomorrow morning with Runa. So make sure you tune in and check us out then. But yeah, back over to yourself, Mark, just to close up tonight's show.
Yeah, so if you enjoyed what you saw, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because it really, really helps us out as well. So if you've not already clicked that button, then please click it now. Don't forget as well that we're also active on social media on X and Threads, so @OverTheBarFB. Also on Instagram, @OverTheBarFB, as well as obviously Blue Sky as well. So yeah, thank you very much, guys, for joining us. And you don't have to wait long before your next taste as well, because Rory is going to be back with Runa tomorrow morning for the fancy show. So thank you very much, guys, and see you then. Bye-bye.
Cheers all.